Okay, so welcome to the second session of this fifth week, where we are talking about coaching. And remember, in the beginning we talked about coaching as a discipline and then how coaching takes place, right. We discussed about how to initiate a discussion, what coaching is, okay, and what is expected from the coaching. So, the basic idea here is that the coaching is given to improve your performance. So, what we are going to discuss is that how coaching can be linked with improved performance, right. So, in this session we are going to talk about the role of coaching in improving the performance and behavior of the employees. So, just like a training strategy, we also need to develop a coaching strategies. The idea of a coaching strategy is to ensure that when you are going to offer a coaching program to participants, you have been able to design and develop a coaching strategy, or what are the activities that you are going to perform in the name of coaching, so that ultimately it delivers better results to you. So, when we are going to discuss about coaching strategies to start with, we are going to take up certain points one by one to see that what needs to be done to start with. First of all, you need to present a concept of coaching to the top management. What does it mean? It means that you need to make them convince about the benefits of coaching and how it is going to help to improve behavior and performance of the employees. Okay. Because unless leadership is convinced about the role of coaching in improving behavior and performance, probably the kind of resource, support and commitment from the top management is expected will not come. Okay. Just like training, you also need to understand that it is a kind of on the job training, and when we say that it is on the job training, it means that you need support and commitment from the top management. And in order to ensure that you get support and commitment from the top management, you need to ensure that you are going to design and develop a detailed coaching program, okay. And then this detailed coaching program has to be submitted to top management to get their approval. In this design and development, basically you are going to identify causes of poor performance. You also need to see why people need to be coached. You also need to discuss about how are going to design and develop a coaching program, how it will be delivered, and what are the likely benefits of the training or this coaching program. So, once this is done, probably top management would be in a position to be convinced about it, that how coaching is going to help you to improve performance, right. Then once you have designed about a coaching program, the next task is to select a coach, because in a coaching program everything is based on the coach. So, in order to ensure that the program is delivered effectively, you have to select a coach who has certain competencies. Okay. So, you need to look at certain characteristics and competency of a coach, which is going to help the individual or the group to perform effectively. So, you need to identify certain criteria for selection of the coach. Okay. It could be his previous record, it could be his past performance, it could be his attitude and behavior, okay. And it could also be related to his motivation to do it. Okay. So, all kind of factors may come into the picture, which may be related to his knowledge and skill base, and also his skills, especially related to communication and interpersonal skills, because communication and interpersonal skills are two major characteristics that we will discuss later on. And why I am talking about communication and interpersonal skills, because this is the backbone of coaching. You know how to perform the job very well, but when you are going to communicate this to another person, you must communicate in the language in which he understands well, right. And these are some of the characteristics and competencies which we will discuss in detail at a later stage, which is very much required. So, when you are going to select a coach, make sure that coach has the requisite knowledge and skill in terms of behavior, also both technical and non-technical, so that he is going to perform his job effectively as a coach. Next point is, once a coach is selected, you can go for some kind of pilot testing. You ask him to do some kind of activity to sure or to judge whether the coach is effective or not. Okay. So, you ask him to take a session and then you are going to observe it to ensure that the coach that you have appointed is giving good result in the pilot run. So, in the pilot run, if he is giving good result, they can expect better returns or better results at a later stage. So, it is very, very important that you select a coach which is going to be effective. See, when coaches for sports are selected, what is the criteria that is used? Both you use certain criteria based on his technical skills, but you also select them based on their behavioral skills like his communication skills, his interpersonal skills, which are very, very important. Okay. Because you are going to deal and interact with people on a regular basis. So, these are the two major criteria that will help you to deal with them effectively. It is not only your technical knowledge which is going to help you as a coach. And finally, you have to see that you are compatible with the team. If your team members are not happy with the coach, then and there is no compatibility, okay, then probably you are not going to be successful as a coach. You have heard that coaches have resigned, coaches are not compatible, they are in conflict with the team members. In that case, you cannot expect success from the team, right, and that is where you need to see that the level of understanding between the team members and the coach is very good and that they are the same level, they are compatible, so that they can work with each other to improve performance, right, and that is where you are going to match coaches with the team members. And then you have to see that how we are going to measure it, what is using certain performance criteria, okay. And you also need to ensure that the coaches are going to help people to improve performance and are able to sustain an environment in which the coaching is going to be successful. Okay. So, these are some of the strategies that you need to understand before you are going to design and develop a coaching program. You must convince the top management about the benefits. You select a coach who is good, who is able to demonstrate his ability, he is compatible with the team members, you are able to measure his performance as well as team performance, and you are going to provide an enabling environment in terms of culture, leadership and resources, which is going to help the coach to be successful. So, these are the things which you need to keep in mind when you are going to start a coaching program process, right, and that is why these strategies are very much required. Now, since performance management is related to coaching, now you look at this figure. There are two people, one is a coach and the other one is coachee, right. So, here he is the coach and he is the coachee. So, the idea is here that he is going to help you to grow, so far as your performance is concerned, right, and that is how we link coaching with the performance management, right. So, you take the first step and he will help you to take other steps, right, that is very, very important. Okay. So, if you look at performance management as such, so when you are going to manage the performance of the people, so basically the idea is that the coach and coachee sit together and discuss what is the goal that is to be achieved. Okay. So, in the process first of the things that you are going to do is that you are going to set the goals in consultation with the coach, that is achievable within a given time frame, which is objective which can be achieved, right, within a given time frame. And then the coaching process starts. You are going to equip him with certain knowledge and skill base, demonstrate it, that how to go about it, how to perform well, so that you can achieve the goals. So, the coaching is delivered by an effective coach, and then finally what happens? You need to reward him, because if coaching is done and performance is not linked with the reward, probably the person will not be motivated to sustain that performance in the long run. So, the idea is that you need to recognize and reward people for better performance, so that you are able to sustain that level of performance, and finally, you make sure that it helps in their personal and professional development, right. So, and that is where you will find the role of the coach. So, he will help you to set the goals, he will help you to see that how you achieve the goals, he will make sure that yes, you are being rewarded and you grow and develop in career, right. So, when we are talking about performance management and coaching, it is very, very important, okay, and that is how you go about it. Look at these various steps that is required. What is the first stage that you go for? Is explorations, expectations. Okay. So, at the first stage you need to make it clear what are your expectations from the coach. When you are trying to grow up in the ladder, it is very, very important to see that you mutually clear your expectations with each other, what you expect from the coach, and similarly coach should also make it clear what is the expectations of the coachee or the client, right. So, there has to be a mutual clarity of expectations from each other, right. Then you are going to demonstrate and the coachee is going to observe the behavior, right, and after the observations he is going to perform that kind of behavior. Okay. So, once he is going to perform the behavior, you see whether he is able to perform it well or not, move to the next stage, and if there is a gap in the performance or not. So, if there is a gap, you provide him feedback. So, this is the gap, and you also tell him that how to bridge this gap, what needs to be done. Okay. So, you demonstrate him how to do it, so that your performance comes to a level, right, and ultimately you are able to reach to that level, and then you need to be monitored on a regular basis, so that you have a sustained performance level, right. So, you go for a follow up. So, feedback and follow up is very, very important in the process, but to start with, you clear your expectations, okay. Ask him to see how the things is done, ask him to do it, go for identifying the gap in the performance if any, provide him feedback, and this feedback has to be constructive, so that he understands what are his strengths and weaknesses and how to go about it, how to develop those qualities in terms of knowledge and skill which needs to be developed, and then you follow it up, so that people are able to perform well, right, and that is how we go about it. So, what the idea is that traditionally, as you know that coaching have been given to improve poor performance. So, you have to define what do you mean by poor performance. The gap in the performance may be there, but whether this gap in the poor performance is due to lack of a skill, lack of motivation, lack of interest, or there are certain other factors, maybe external factors may be responsible for gap in the performance. So, what I want to tell you that you need to define first the performance standard, and then you look at the gap, and then you can see whether the person is able to perform at that level or not. Okay. So, when we are talking about performance, you must have a standard of performance which could be classified as standard, and you also say that if your performance is below this mark, then it is a poor performance. Say for example, if you are supposed to produce 100 units of a product, and this is the benchmark, he is able to produce say 80. So, this is the performance level. So, and that is how you are going to identify the gap. It means he lacks 20 units, right. Now, whether this is poor performance or if he does 50, that is the poor performance. So, you should make it very clear what is your standard performance and what do you mean by poor performance, and how the gap between standard and poor performance or the actual performance has to be met. So, the poor performance is basically related to the actual performance. Okay. So, you have to define poor performance, then next stage you are going to respond to the poor performance. What I mean to say is that if this gap is to be bridged. Now, in order to bridge this gap, what are the activities that you are going to take up? For that you are going to analyze why this poor performance is there, whether it is because of the internal factors, lack of ability and other kind of things, or it is because of the external factors. So, if it is because of the external factors, then coaching may not be a solution. Then you have to enable those environment in terms of resources, culture, leadership, climate, these kind of things which facilitate effective performance. Okay. But if it is because of the lack of knowledge and skill base, or he does not know how to perform his job, or there is a lack of motivation and interest, probably then you can think about coaching as a solution, right. So, when you are going to respond to poor performance, you have to see that it is due to lack of knowledge and skill base or motivation and interest. It is not because of external or internal environmental factors which is responsible for this, right. Then you are going to conduct a coaching analysis. What I mean by coaching analysis here is that you have to see that what kind of coaching would be required in this case. Okay. Does he need to attend a motivation development program, does he need to attend a skill development program, whatever it is, right. So, based upon the requirement of the coachee, you have to identify okay, this kind of program is required, and that is what I said that the first stage is to identify the requirement of the coaching. So, coaching analysis basically helps you to assess the performance, and if there is a gap in the performance you can say yes, coaching may be a solution, right. And then you discuss that how to improve that performance, right. What kind of interventions are required, what kind of activity would be required to bridge this gap, so that you are able to perform well. Now, when it comes to achieving poor performance, what do you mean by poor, right. Say for example, if you look at grade as an indicator of performance. So, if you get A grade, it could be called an excellent grade. If you get B grade, it could be called good grade. If you get C grade, it is called average grade. If you get D grade, then it is a poor grade, and if you get, you become fail, right. So, whether this D is poor or C is poor, okay. What do you mean by poor performance? So, this is poor performance, right. Now, if you look at this figure, it shows that poor performance is somewhere you get D grade, right. So, that is how you are going to define poor performance. If it means that if your performance falls below 50% of the expectations, then it could be treated as poor performance, and there is a need to design certain interventions, and coaching may be one of the solutions, right. So, if you are going to define performance, it is said that a specific agreed upon deviations from the expected behavior, right. So, expected behavior is the average performance, right. If you perform better than what is expected, then it is not this. So, expected is say if 60 or say 70. So, 70 is the expected performance, your is 50. So, it means your is poor performance. B is above average. So, the benchmark could be this one or this one, it depends upon you how the management decides about the benchmark, because you are going to compare your performance with the benchmark performance. Now, you have to set up your benchmark performance. Suppose if it is 80, then the gap is higher, if it is 70, then the gap is less. So, it is very important that in consultation with the management and the supervisor, you decide what do you mean by poor performance. It has to be agreed upon, and how much deviation from expected behavior and performance is there, which could be counted as poor performance. And then it has to be evaluated against some standard or expected level of performance. So, it could be B or C, as I told you, it could be good behavior or average behavior, okay, against which your performance is going to be compared, right. And then you must communicate this level of performance which is to be achieved by the worker, so that he knows that what is the level of gap, what is the extent of gap that he has, right. So, standard and expected level of performance must be communicated to the worker by the supervisor, so that the worker understands okay, this is the standard level of performance which I am supposed to achieve. Now, when we are talking about performance standards, we use basically two kind of performance standards, that is absolute standards and relative standards. Now, let me explain what absolute standards are and what relative standards are, right. And I am going to use the same thing. For example, in a grading system, if you get 90 plus, then you get A grade. If you get 80 plus, then you get B. If you get 70, then you get C, or 60, then you get C plus. If you get 50, then you get, and if you get below 50, then you get F grade, right. So, there is a range of scores. So, if you get 90 and above, say 90 and 100, then you get an excellent grade, right, excellent. If you get A, means your score is somewhere between 80 and 90. Okay. 70 to 80 is B grade, 60 to 70 is C grade, 50 to 60 is D grade, and below that if you get below 50 then you are fail, right. Suppose this is the criteria that is used. Now, when you are going to compare your performance using an absolute standards and suppose you get 70, right. So, a score of 70 corresponds to this level, it means that your performance is average, right. Suppose you get 80, then your performance corresponds to this, it means that you get B. What does it mean to say is that you are going to be compared with a standard performance which has been predefined in absolute terms, and your performance would be compared with that absolute standard. Okay. And this would be equally applied to all the subordinates, right. Now, coming to relative performance standards, here what happens that you are going to compare that individual with his peers. You are not using that absolute performance standards. So, suppose that there are 20 people in the group and you are one of them. So, your performance say x is to be compared with these 20 people and sees that what is your relative standing vis-a-vis other 20 people in the group in terms of performance. So, when we go for relative grading, okay, we are not using these absolute standards for comparing your performance and giving you certain grades in terms of performance. But what we are going to do, we are going to see the grades for these 20 people, okay, and how much deviation is there and where you stand, and that is how your performance could be compared. Okay. So, suppose the range of the scores is in between say 50 and say 75, right, for these 20 people, with you have an average of 60. Okay. The highest mark is 75, the lowest is 50, right. So, you calculate the mean and you also calculate the SD, what you call standard deviation. Okay. So, once mean and SD is calculated, and then your score is to be looked at, right. So, 50 is the lowest score and 75 is the highest score. The average is 60, this is the mean, right. So, if your score you are falling somewhere here with a score of say 65, that is an above average score, right. Depending upon your location on this deviation, you are given a grade in terms of performance. It means your grade is going to be relative compared to others performance in the same group, right, and that is where we are going to use relative grading or relative performance standards. Both of them have their own advantages and disadvantages. In small groups you are going for relative grading, but in big groups you can go for absolute gradings where performance standards are predefined and you can make use of them. Then we also need to ensure about deviant work behavior. Deviant work behavior means that is also an indication of what you call performance which could be called poor, and this because of this deviant work behavior there could be a poor performance, right. And this may include production deviance if you are working slowly and leaving early, if you are engaged in those kind of activities like sabotage, lying about working hours, there is a favoritism or gossiping while working. So, that is also going to affect your performance. So, this could also lead to poor performance. So, the job of the manager is also to ensure that how to identify poor performance and whether it is due to lack of knowledge and skill or because of deviant behavior that is made by the people at the workplace, right. So, there could be different kind of deviant behavior which is going to lead to what you call poor performance at the workplace. So, the managers must be able to understand when they are going to analyze the requirement of the coaching to improve performance, that whether this performance is because of lack of knowledge and skill base or whether it is because of the deviant behavior that is made by the employees at the workplace. So, you need to coach people for the poor performance. If you look at this photo, you can see that how the person is how depressed frustrated the person is because his performance is not good. Now, the thing is that you need to identify why this poor performance is that? What is the reason for the poor performance? So, when you are going for analysis of the coaching, then you have to see and identify various causes for poor performance. Okay. And then you need to see that what kind of encouragement has been there to the employees from the organization, and also need to ensure that what kind of solutions can be developed to ensure that people are able to develop their performance performance, right. So, you as a coach, it is your responsibility to find out the solutions. So, you have to see that how the person is going to improve his performance, okay. And then you are going to renegotiate the goals and objectives depending upon his characteristics, his knowledge and skill base. You can work it out, you can go for a negotiation of understanding his goals and objectives, which can be achieved by him within a given time frame. So, once you understand the causes, the other things become logically follow, because in that case once you are able to understand, you understand what is to be done, what kind of solution would be required, what are the goals and objectives that he can meet within a given time frame, right. And then both the coach and the coachee has to agree on that action plan, and then you go for scheduling other activities, that how you are going to do it, right. So, coaching for poor performance is very, very important, because ultimately it has been leading to that one. And finally, we are going to talk about how we respond to poor performance. There are two major theories that have been used, known as causal attribution theories and fundamental attribution error. These are basically psychological theories which have been used to attribute poor performance. Now, if you look at causal attribution theory, which says that what is the perceived cause of a behavior. Okay. So, people actually assign a particular cause to the behavior, right, and this cause of the behavior could be internal or external attributions. So, internal attributions is due to lack of knowledge skill base, or external attributions could be because of external factors which are not under the control of the person. So, if there is a causal attribution, means they try to link cause with the behavior, right. If you think that due to knowledge and skill base you have not been able to perform well, or internal external factors were not favorable. So, it affected your performance, right. So, you are attributing the cause of failure to either internal factors or external factors, right. For example, when we fail in the exam, right. So, we can attribute it to ourselves because we did not read well, that so far as knowledge and skill is concerned, we do not have it. We can also attribute to external factors, the paper was from out of the syllabus, the paper was very tough, and all kind of things you can say, right. So, you are blaming it to the external factors, that is what we know as causal attribution theory. When it comes to fundamental attribution error, it means for everything you think that you are responsible for it. You assume that you are the cause of the behavior. It is because of you that the performance has been very, very poor, right. So, it is a kind of error that you make, not necessarily that you are responsible for what you do. There could be external factors which are responsible. Okay. So, these kind of things must be kept in mind when you go for coaching analysis, to ensure that you are able to rightly identify poor performance, because if you are not able to identify whether it is because of lack of say knowledge and skill or external factors, how we are going to go and develop an action plan for coaching, right. So, it is very, very important to do not overlook these kind of things. Okay. So, you must find out what is the cause of poor performance, okay. And that is where you are going to use these theories to ensure that person does not make an attributional error, and you are able to rightly identify the cause of the behavior. So, next case, if you look at it, that gives you an idea about different kind of things that go for coaching, okay, and what are the motivations, what are the focus, and how long it will go for, right. If you look at coaching for knowledge and skill base, it means that you want to improve your knowledge and skill, right. You want to sharpen your skills, right. In that case, you had to be coached, right, accordingly, and it has to be short term, maybe one session or something like that. But if it is a coaching for performance, then you have to identify, correct and sustain or improve your outcomes, right. It means there is a gap in the performance, and that is why you need coaching, and in this case your competencies need to be improved, okay. and it could be short to medium term. Similarly, if you look at development activities, if coaching is for the development, it means that coaching is given to you to take up future positions, right. So, the coaching, the focus is not to look at your current competencies, but develop those competencies which will be required by you to be successful in a future identified job. It could be a long term goal, right, and if it is a part of the executive agenda which is triggered by the broader, more often strategic or systematic functions or organizational priorities, then the focus of the coaching is on those things which would be required by the organization, right, and it may vary, right, depending upon the context and the situation. So, if you look at the role of the coaching, what drives this kind of coaching, what is the focus of the coaching and how long it will go for, it depends depending upon you are going to coach for what, whether you are going to coach for knowledge, skill, development or some other activities. Okay. And finally, if you look at the success factors, these are the 4 important things which are very important, like clarity. Okay. Both of them should be clear about what is to be done in terms of expectations, focus, what is to be developed, at conditions under which it has to happen, right, and the commitment from both all the stakeholders, coach, coaches and all the clients and the stakeholders. And finally, all of them have to work for continuous improvement on ongoing manner to ensure that the action achieve the desired results, right, and that is how coaching is going to be very successful. Thank you very much.